Rev up your engines!
As you can see, his previous Impreza wiped out when it was just 3 years old, but it wasn't his fault. The car was sitting on the street when somebody plowed into it and it ended up like that. So he just went out and bought another one. Brand new 2023 Subaru Impreza. And as you can see, it was made in Indiana. And there's the plate. 2 of 23, made in Indiana. Now he had a Subaru station wagon for 20 years. Then he decided, well, it's old and I got to commute from the city of New York to visit my son in Rhode Island, so he wanted something newer. So, a little over 2 years ago, he bought himself an Impreza. And you might say, wait a second, this is a 2023, how could that happen? Well, he bought a 2020. And the reason he bought the Impreza was they don't make the station wagons. He would have bought the station wagon. It's kind of station wagon looking, really cut down a little bit, right? A little over 2 years after he bought it, he's at his son's place and hears this noise and he looks outside. Somebody ran into his car while it was sitting on the road, flipped it on its side. So he just went out and bought this brand new one. Considering the average price of a car today is pushing 50 grand, this thing was 25 grand and you get quite a bit for 25 grand. Like I say, you usually get what you pay for. Now you're getting Subaru's all-wheel drive, and he wanted a reliable car. You can see it's all shiny because it's only got a few hundred miles on it. Now, this is a Subaru Boxer 2-liter engine, and it puts out plenty enough horsepower to get you where you're going. Yeah, it's not a WRX, but it doesn't have a turbocharger. It's a good thing on a Boxer engines. Now, one thing you got to realize about these modern Boxer engines, over the years everybody said, oh, Subarus don't buy them, their head gaskets blow. Well, their head gaskets stopped blowing decades ago because they figured out how to design the head gaskets. But they do have a problem when they get to high miles. Now, this owner will probably never find that out because his 20-year-old Subaru station wagon that he used to have, when he got rid of it, it had like 35,000 miles on it. So he doesn't drive them all that much. So it's a perfect car for him. But realize this, in order to make a vehicle like this, he paid $25,000 and the lowest list is $19,900. So they're lower priced cars. The problem is they do make them less expensively than they used to. That's how they sell them cheaper. For instance, you see the cams are up here. Well, instead of all the side parts having gaskets on them and the whole front assembly, what a timing cover is. Now, a lot of companies do this, but Subaru has some problems with it as they age. They don't use gaskets on most of it. They use silicone sealer. So they got sealer, and guess what happens? After high mileage and age, the sealant dries up and it leaks, and you might think, oh, big deal. So it leaks oil. Well, you price what it costs to pull the engine and change all the gaskets or pay a guy to do it on the car, which is a royal pain. You'll kind of be peeved that they didn't use gaskets and they used silicone glue instead. Of course, the pros, they're going to replace them with actual gaskets. You can buy aftermarket gaskets. Companies make them, right? But they just cheaped out. Instead of having a bunch of gaskets, have to have them all ordered, ready for assembly. They just got a glue gun that just goes and it's a lot cheaper to make them that way. You won't notice for a while, but if you keep them forever, you're gonna notice it's gonna start leaking oil. They don't blow head gaskets like they used to, but they will leak oil over time. So if you're a cheapskate like me and you want to keep your cars like mine 20, 30, 40 years, 400,000 miles, you're not gonna be happy with this engine as it ages, but he's never gonna go that far, so he doesn't care. It's Subaru all-wheel drive, so it's got a great all-wheel drive system, and even with that, in the mid-30s on the highway, he had an older one that he almost got 40 miles a gallon on. They get good gas mileage. The engine's not too big, and it's not turbocharged. It's going to last longer, doesn't have all that pressure inside it. Turbos aren't going to wear out because it doesn't have any turbos. For somebody who's looking for efficient transportation, it's really not that bad of a choice. Price an equivalent Toyota or Honda new, you're talking $10,000 to $18,000 more than this thing is. So... and the Subarus are available. You try to get some of the Toyotas. I called the dealer the other day just for kicks because I thought, gee, a lot of people are bringing me cars here. They had to get a new car because somebody on the East Coast rammed into them. They call Massachusetts drivers masshole drivers for a good reason. I thought, what if somebody wipes out my Toyota? Well, so I called up Toyota to see what their prices were. And believe you me, they are $10,000 to $15,000 more than this thing. Makes me think, hey, maybe I'll get a Subaru next time if somebody runs into me. Who knows? As I said, he'd rather have the station wagon, but if you look at it, it really is kind of like a station wagon they squashed the back down on. You can see where it came from. It's got plenty of room in the back seat. You drop the seats, You got plenty of room to store stuff with. I could easily fit my folding bicycles in there. And even though it's an economy car, came with some really nice alloy wheels too. Comes with good tires, Continentals. And look, not made in China, made in USA. Comes with good tires too. Guess what? It comes with a key. He doesn't like keyless ignition either. But not only that, hey, this thing's starting to sell on me, I'll tell you. Look, a real handbrake, not that electronic crap. Hey, your battery goes dead, you don't have a parking brake anymore. If it's an electronic parking brake, people have had a lot of problems with that. This is a real emergency brake with cables. Very easy to work on if it ever breaks. Rarely do they break. And for those of you who work on your own cars, you don't have to go out like me as a mechanic and buy a super expensive scan tool to put the electric parking brake assembly to sleep when you do a brake job, because if you don't, you're going to destroy it. Another reason they use electronic parking brake, well, you can't do your own brake job now. You got to go to a mechanic that's got one of these scan tools, and those scan tools go anywhere from $700 to $7,000, so they're getting you by the short of curlies. But not in this car. It's just got regular brakes that anyone could do a brake job on. Start her up. Now, it's a brand new car, so you're not going to hear any really wacky noises. Although, you can hear a little bit of noise there. And the injectors are a little bit on the noisy side. That's how they sound on Subarus. But watch this. Get inside. You don't hear it inside the car. Some are really noisy. That's normal. That's not something you worry about. Look inside. You can see it's got high and low heated seats for the passenger and for the driver. Nice interior. A screen that's nice because it's incorporated. It's not like those Toyotas that stick up in the air. If you remember, I had a customer last year bring me one of these, and he bought it because he hated the Toyota display that stuck up. He found it annoying. Plus, he didn't want to pay another $14,000 for a RAV4. And he was real happy with the Subaru. Really complex, radio, phone, media, AC, heat, very simple to operate. You don't need to be a computer scientist to figure out how to operate the system. The pictures of what you're turning to like they used to. Old technology is often better. If you're into new technology, the steering wheel does all kinds of things. You can see it's got the speed control, collision avoidance system, lane stay. I mean, it's got technology in it. Yeah, it doesn't have a sunroof. He doesn't want a sunroof. Neither do I. The owner just told me, and I always expect this, the collision avoidance stuff is a little funky. When you're on the highway, says when they're going one way and people are going the other way, it has put the brakes on and started to slow the vehicle on them because it's confused. Don't ever trust these systems. They're nice for a little assistance, but don't put your life in the hands of a relatively stupid computer that can't tell what is really happening. And of course, the problem with all that stuff is it's fail-safe. So what do? When they're confused? They start to slow down. I'll tell you a really funny one. Well, it's funny for us, but not for the owner. When I was in Houston, customer had a Jeep, right? And the Jeep was coming under an underpass, and it saw the shadow. They thought it was a truck. So it slowed the Jeep down, then he got rear-ended. So, maybe this artificial intelligence is exactly what it says. It's artificial. It isn't that good. Kind of like artificial flavoring, right? It tastes good now, but it may be destroying your brain cells. Now, these are a lot quieter than Subarus used to be. They used to be known as washing machines vibrating down the road. We'll open the door. Look, it's got a nice little ridge. Keeps the wind from blowing. Makes it quieter. Now, as we're driving down the road, you'll see this thing is a lot quieter than the old Subarus and also rides a lot nicer. This is a horrible Rhode Island road, the one I always check it. And hey, it's going pretty smooth. If you remember the other day, I did a little bitty Hyundai, and man, it rattled like all get-go. And this thing, hey, it's got a pretty smooth ride for a wheelbase that it has. And they're much quieter than the Subarus used to be. Here we go. Nobody's to the left. People are to the right. All right, here we go. We'll see what this little engine can do. Like I say, it's not a race car, but it picks it up. You can see how smooth the transmission is. Subaru's gone a long way with their transmissions. They're not like the old clunkers that they originally put in. Their engineers have gone a lot further in time. Get decent horsepower. You used to not be able to buy a Subaru with an automatic. You have to get a manual because they were just such dogs. But not anymore. Corners quite well. It's a fun little car to drive. I'm pretty impressed by the quietness of it. They obviously spent some engineering making the doors flange like that. The whole car itself is quieter, handles nice, and And sure, it's not a race car. You can go out and buy a WRX if you want. You're going to pay an awful lot more money, get a lot worse gas mileage, and probably get a whole bunch of speeding tickets too. Oh look, it reminds you not to leave any children or animals in the back seat. What are they going to do next? Warn you, be sure to breathe while you're driving the car. So there you have it, a brand new 2023 Subaru Impreza, but it's got a lot of old school stuff, an actual key, an actual parking brake. I like the way this car was designed in its price range. Kind of hard to beat, actually. Sure, over time, those stupid silicone gaskets will leak because they decided to save some money when they built them. Now, like I say, he's not going to care. His last Subaru was 20 years old with 35,000 miles, so it's not going to be something he's going to have to worry about. But for what you get with all the space of this thing, and the owner himself said you'd be a fool to buy a Crosstrek instead of this paying thousands and thousands of more, and you're basically just getting bigger wheels. You could buy the bigger wheels yourself and buy one of these if you wanted to, you know? I mean, he spent a lot of time thinking about this. And he liked this other one, but you saw it got flipped on its side. Nobody was in it, so nobody got hurt. But I'll give you another thing is, I had a guy come from New York City who was an EMT, and he bought one of these for his wife because he liked the safety ratings of them. They're really safe cars too. A lot of people that used to buy Volvos, hey, they're thinking about buying these things because they got good safety ratings. You could probably buy 2 or 3 of these for the price of one Volvo that size. As I say, you get what you pay for. In this case, you might get a little bit more than what you pay for. You figure a RAV4 is going to cost you $10,000 to $15,000 or more than one of these things. Money can sway people's idea what they want, what they don't want to buy. And in this price range, they've got a pretty good idea. They've been making these things for decades, and there's a reason, because there's a big market for people who want all-wheel drive cars that get good gas mileage and that are relatively fun to drive, that don't cost a small fortune. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.